Ichimon Japan is made possible by Patreon support. If you would like to make sure that we can keep bringing you more content like this, then head on over to JapanKyo.com/Patreon and sign up for as little as $1 a month. Okay, so people, be careful. There's a Sarlacc roaming the Kyoto streets. Welcome to Ichimon Japan. I'm Tony.
And I'm Ryan.
And, well, Ichimon means one question. In every episode, we ask a question about Japan. Today's question is, what is it like moving in Japan? So,
I was wondering how you were going to phrase it as a question.
Well, there was a little hesitation in my voice because I was like, I was kind of trying to come up with it on the spot. But actually, Ryan just moved. So this is kind of the inspiration of the episode. So long-time listeners of the show, I know there's at least like two people. There's more, but there's at least two. There's at least, yeah. And one of them is your wife. Yeah. No, there's a good decent amount, and we appreciate every single one of you guys. You may remember that Ryan lived in Ishikawa Prefecture for a long time, and we used to talk about how delicious the carrots were and how bad the ramen was and how much it rained in Ishikawa because it used to rain a lot, right? And just generally the food wasn't that good.
The curry was great. It was mainly just I didn't like the ramen place.
Right. Yeah. So, but you know, Ryan was in Ishikawa for, I don't know, like what, 5 years?
6 years.
6 years. Yeah. But overall, I mean, I think you did enjoy your time there, right?
Very, very much.
Yeah. So I think Ryan's still eating something. So, but yes, that was a positive.
It's not Ishikawa ramen though.
Oh yeah.
It's your last. Before we move on for that, I made no secret that I did not like that one ramen chain.
Yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't say this. Never mind. I'm gonna skip it.
Okay, never mind.
Listener from Ishikawa.
But I mean, aside from any details from specific little things about maybe the food or something, but overall, you were always quite positive about Ishikawa and the people that you met.
I really did like it a great deal. Like legitimately, if there are any Ishikawa listeners out there. My wife and I both kind of miss it. She especially misses being able to park in places.
So, which brings us to our next point. Where do you live now, Ryan?
Yes, now I live in Kyoto.
Yeah. So, the city of Kyoto, but you're kind of on the outskirts. We don't have to say exactly where, obviously, but
I am. My address is Kyoto. Not doing one of those I live nearby and I'm just using it because it's a big city. But I am not in the center where it's all huge and urban. I'm kind of on the outside where it's a bit more toned down, which is really nice because my wife does not like super urban places.
Yeah. And Kyoto can get, especially the city center areas like Sanjo, Shijo, around Kyoto Station, those, popular tourist kind of areas, they can get pretty packed because, again, that is one of the most popular tourist areas, especially in that area, in the Kansai area.
Yeah, especially now, since tourism is kind of restarting again, whenever we go down there, it's been really, really crowded.
Yeah. And so, I lived near Kyoto for a while. Ryan lived in Osaka too. So, you have some experience in Kyoto already, but first time living in Kyoto. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. So recently he moved. I'm not sure when this episode will come out, but we're talking the standard moving time. So, we're going to be talking about when move, also moving related stuff, basically, mostly based on Ryan's experiences. But I know a few things. I did look up a couple things and I have lived in Japan too. But basically March, April is the time when people tend to move because that is the end of the fiscal year and the end of the school year in March, right? And then April, everything starts up again. So a lot of people, they relocate right before April, and that's really
we moved at the most expensive time to move. We found out
exactly. Yeah, that's the peak for everything, right? From moving companies to anything affiliated with that. Getting appointments for probably to install your internet or gas, to turn it on or whatever it is. Probably everything takes a little bit longer during that time. Yeah. So
speaking of internet, we have now fiber optic built into our building for free.
Nice. Yeah, that's the nice thing about moving into a newer place. So,
and I gotta point out, because every time I mention this to Americans or foreigners, they're like, "Oh, but it's included. The charge is included in your rent." It's actually not. We're in like a building that's like a chain of buildings in Kyoto, and like similar units are the same price but don't have the internet thing. Like just ours is kind of lucky, I guess.
Nice. Hey, well, hey, that's great. I do not have that here in Hawaii. So, okay. So you were you living in an apartment before in Ishikawa? Or was it more of a house? Like, what was the layout?
It was an apartment. I've only had apartments. I don't know how people distinguish apartment or apato from mansion, because everyone's definition seems to vary.
Okay. My understanding is mansion is like you buy it, like that's when you own it.
That's what I thought, but everyone now tells me like, no, it's just how big your building is.
Okay. All right. Maybe language is evolving. I don't know, but that was my understanding.
Maybe it's regional, because like when I was in Kansai before, that's also what I had been told. But then in Ishikawa, everyone's like, no, just like big building is one, small building is the other.
Interesting.
And sometimes I'd ask them like, okay, which one's which? And they're like, oh, I don't know.
Okay, so even Japanese people don't know. All right, fine. So then don't worry about that. Then I tend to just, when in doubt, I just go with the pato because it's like it just seems more general to me. Yeah, because I don't know, like it's like you wouldn't call like a one studio room kind of thing like a mansion, right? So I don't know, a pato seems more general. But anyway,
like occasionally when you order something or like fill out any form, you have to describe your building, and sometimes it asks you if you're a pato mansion.
Yeah.
So, like, I would ask my wife, or I'd ask, like, other teachers who are nearby whenever I'm doing this. And I would get various answers. No one had confidence. Like, mansion kana? Okay.
What the hell? Okay, so anyway, don't worry about it. Just pick one. So you were in an apartment before, and now you're in an apartment now.
Yes, a much nicer apartment.
Oh, great. Okay. Because, let's start with one of the most basic questions. So what was the rent situation? Like, how did it change?
I think more than doubled.
Oh, geez. Yeah. That's the thing. I mean, Ishikawa is generally speaking much cheaper, huh?
Yes. The size is also bigger.
Okay.
But mainly it's the location, like being in Kyoto as opposed to being... Ishikawa has some like desirable areas, basically like in Kanazawa, but I was not there.
Yeah.
And where I lived is kind of like a shrinking old town, so rents were shockingly low.
Yeah. That's quite common. Another thing that happens is when you many non-Japanese people, when they go to Japan, they do that via jet or some kind of English teaching job, right? And so what happens there is you get a job and they find a place for you. And in some times, especially in jet, your rent can be subsidized, or if you're really, really lucky and especially if you're living in like some super rural area, sometimes it can even be free. I've heard stories like that.
I have too.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this is true everywhere, but my first 2 years, I think, I got like subsidized pay for my rent. Like they'd give me bonus money for it.
Mm-hmm.
And then they stopped doing that, and they sent us like the worst Google translated letter ever to explain why. It literally said like, laws have changed. We are no longer required to do this, so we are stopping it. It was like, wow.
Well, at least you're honest. We never wanted to do this, but the law made us do it. So now that we don't have to, too bad. But yeah, like even when I was living in Kobe, I was on the JET program, and they like I didn't get like a extra payment, but my rent was very cheap. It was probably like 30,000. Yeah, it was 30,000 yen, I think. And
that's even more than I was in Ishikawa.
Oh wow! Okay.
I think my first apartment was like 35,000, but it was like a tiny little dinky thing. So I moved on my own to one that was about 50,000.
Yeah, I mean, mine was not like tiny. It wasn't big, but it was more than the 6 tatami, which is like, I don't know. I think that's considered like kind of on the smaller side. I had enough space for a dining room table and like still some kitchen space. It was just like a one room thing, but it was big enough for me. So yeah, like it was very cheap, and that makes it so much easier to save money, obviously. But it can wildly vary depending on your region, on your specific place that you're working at. But
there are other factors too, though, because like I think location was a big factor, but like I said, this one's also bigger and much newer. I think my new building was built in like 2016 or 2017.
Yeah.
And my old building was built like, I don't know, like 1980s or something.
Right. Yeah. I think I was living in a building that was like 1980s too. It was older. So yeah, when you do leave that English job or that, what is it, ALT or JET or whatever, oftentimes you do end up paying more because it's not subsidized or you're moving to a newer place like Ryan did. So that is just a normal thing. Now
my old building also had internet included, but it was also like older, slower, junkier internet.
Yeah.
It was probably really nice, like in, I don't know, 2002 or whatever they installed it, but not so much now.
Right. So okay, so then how did
I do have a small internet story that's kind of funny if you want to hear that. It's sort of related to moving.
Sure. Okay.
So my new job, I needed to get a laptop. Well, you don't need to, but I was told it's very nice if you have like a really portable way to just like bring a computer around. Like my old job, they gave us a laptop. This one doesn't. We have laptops like chained to desks we can use in our office. Anyway, if I'm being vague, I'm still a teacher.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I went to go buy one, and I just got like a basic one that just has like Office and it's lightweight. And they said like, oh, it's going to take us a few minutes to like get this out of the back because, they have limited space in urban stores. So like in the meantime, we have someone who wants to like talk to you about like changing your internet service. Like it's okay to say no. It's just like, it's his job. And it was kind of like an awkward conversation. Because like, we're going to send a salesman to talk to you while we prepare this, but like, don't feel bad saying no. And we're like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
So he comes in with this like little like questionnaire enquete, and he's like, oh, so where is your internet from now? Like, or like, what kind of internet do you have? Like, oh, we have fiber optic. It's like, oh, that's really good. How much are you paying? 0. Oh, well, if you want to change to a different fiber optic, you can pay us 3,000 yen a month.
Yeah. So, I have no leverage on you.
Like, we can just see his body language, like, oh, I'm just wasting my time, but I'm being paid to do this, so I better do this. Yeah.
He's just got to do it. But, oh my God. Yeah. I don't know if it's gotten better, but, when I was setting up my internet, like, more than 10 years ago, like there were, it was like, oh, it's going to take like a week or two for somebody to go to your place to set it up. It was so freaking annoying. And I was pretty pushy and I managed to get them to do it a little bit faster, but, just be aware that could be a thing if they have to send somebody to your place to, I don't know, do something for the internet setup. It can take a few days, especially if it's in the peak season.
I've always heard horror stories like that. And with the exception of one person who's completely to blame themselves, I haven't experienced it much myself. The only time I had to like actually have a company come down, they came in like 2 or 3 days, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so funny story number 2. I had a friend who was very unconfident with his Japanese. So he decided, for whatever, it was JET. So he had like a supervisor to help him that he just didn't use for some reason. And instead he resolved to do the internet by hand writing letters and mailing them to the internet company.
Oh my God.
With like limited Japanese.
Yeah.
So I never saw the letters, but I'm imagining they were like not very clear and full of mistakes.
Yeah.
So he would send them, wait like a week and a half to get like a response, which he wouldn't understand. So then like he'd have to have someone like translate it for him. And then write another letter, wait like another 2 weeks for another response.
Yeah, don't do that.
And he was telling me this, like, yeah, it took like 3 months to get my internet set up. And I was like,
why?
You could just show up to their office and be like, I live here, please do this. Like, if you go into the internet company and like show your address, they probably can figure out you want internet.
Yeah. Or you go to like one of those electronic stores, and they have those stalls there, and you can talk to the people there, and that's where I went, and that's where I was like very pushy. I was like, no, unless you can do it in under 10 days, I don't want it. And then I managed to get it for a little bit faster, right? But yeah, don't write letters, people. Jeez. All right. So, okay. So yeah. So you were in Ishikawa, and then you found a job, and then how did you go about finding an apartment? Did they help you, or like did you just have to do it by yourself?
I did it. Well, I mean, it would be a lie to say I did it by myself. My wife did almost all of it.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, you guys did it, but yeah.
Well, okay. Together we did we started by browsing the internet because there's a whole bunch of apartment finder websites. We use the Japanese ones. I believe there are some English language ones too, but we just used Japanese ones, assuming they'd have more. And we kind of got an idea of which ones we liked, and then we contacted 2 different real estate agents, local to Kyoto,
mm-hmm.
and just sent them an email hey, we're going to be moving out there. We want to live in this area. We've seen buildings like this. Help us find something.
So you did not handwrite a letter?
No, we did not handwrite a letter.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. So you get in touch with the
schedule the appointments online. I don't even think that was over the phone.
Okay.
So we actually scheduled both appointments for the same day, which was kind of funny because it was really awkward after the first guy was... Okay, back to the story. We meet with a guy, around noon, I think, in Kyoto, who literally got us in his car. Well, it's probably a company car. And drove us to some of the ones that we said we were interested in, and some of the ones he was suggesting to us.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's pretty standard in other countries too. You just go to the unit, they unlock it for you, you walk around, they tell you information and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But then at the end of that, he was like, "Oh, so which one do you like?" And we're like, "We have an appointment with another real estate agent in an hour."
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it was the next day. But yeah, anyway, we did it the next day with someone else. Same thing. They took us to different ones. We ended up going with the second agent because one of the places he recommended we liked more than even the places we had looked at.
Yeah.
They both told us too that they have access to all the same buildings because basically they're just also using the same online service as we do, but they have professional accounts with them, I guess.
Okay.
So I was given the opinion it kind of doesn't matter which real estate company you go with; they'll all have access to the same buildings and the same prices.
Okay.
So yeah, just find someone you like to deal with. My wife thought the second guy was nicer, so she was also happy we liked his building.
Okay. Hey man,
I thought they were both fine, but
okay. So all right, so then you find the place that you like, and then I guess is there a contract or something? What's the payment? Because you always hear about the monies and all that.
This is where probably. I don't know how different it would be from the West because all of my adult life experience is in Japan, so I kind of don't know what America's like, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But I imagine we had way more paperwork here than you would in the U.S.
Mm.
We had to get approved first, which Japanese landlords are famous for not liking foreigners.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, they don't want to deal with it.
Yeah. I don't know how much I want to go into the discrimination aspect of it.
Yeah. I mean, I think people have heard of this before, but anyway, yeah.
I've never met a landlord to hear their personal beliefs, but the reputation they have is that they think foreigners are likely to run away and not pay their last month's rent or something.
That's what I've heard exactly. Yes.
And I believe there's literally no evidence whatsoever to back that up. A Japanese person can also run out no last rent, and for whatever reason they don't have any discrimination.
Mm-hmm.
So while we were at the office, once we picked it, the guy was like, "Oh, whose name do you want it to be?" And it's well, my wife doesn't work, so it kind of has to be my name because they look at your income and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, "Okay, some people say no. Let's find out." He was very nice about it, just kind of being honest, and he called them directly. And I think we were helped that, I said, this unit is owned by a corporation. It's not just some guy who owns a building, but they have a chain of them. Mm-hmm. And corporations care about money more than discrimination.
Yeah.
So when he called them, I only heard his side of the conversation, but it sounded on the other side, they're yeah, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But he did have to explain to them that I've been in Japan for like over 10 years that I was married and that I now have like a university job because that's supposed to make me look like respectable and trustworthy.
Yeah. And you have many kitsune and tanuki and yokai friends.
Yes. I am friend to the yokai world.
Yes. So,
and I don't communicate by handwritten letter.
That was the question. Did he send a handwritten letter? The guy said, no, he didn't send a handwritten letter. You heard that part.
Yeah, they did approve me.
Yeah.
Well, it was kind of weird. Like, they said the foreigner thing wouldn't be a problem, but they still needed a whole bunch of paperwork to formally approve me because they still want, like, proof of income. And honestly, they gave us, like, a gigantic stack of papers. And it felt like all I did was write my name and address 500 times. Like, I wasn't even checking boxes like, I agree with this, or, like, I want this service or that service. It was literally just, like, here is... I don't even know what the difference between them were, honestly. It was literally write your name, write your address, Honko here. Write your name, write your address, Honko here. For like 30 different papers.
All right, well, they're very thorough.
I did have to send in some photocopies of like my, I think my residence card. Despite them wanting me to have proof of like income, I don't recall ever sending anything like that. Like, I don't think I ever got any official document from my job. I just was like, I'm a teacher, and like, okay, we trust you.
Okay. Huh. But,
so you might be able to just lie about your income.
I guess. Okay, so what about one of the things that you often hear about is the reikin, which in English sometimes gets called the key money, and that is this. It's like usually what I've heard is it tends to be like 1 to 3 months worth of rent that you pay the landlord, and it's you don't get that money back. And I guess rei comes from thank you, so it's like thanks money for allowing me to pay you to live in this building or something. And it's something that many non-Japanese people often complain. Even Japanese people often complain about it. But did you have to deal with that? Did you have to pay that?
Yes, but it was like renamed, I think, because it's like a modern company doing it now. I again, my suspicion is because it was a corporation and not a guy.
Yeah.
They thought like thank you money sounded weird.
Yeah.
So we did have like a 1 month fee to pay, but it was explained to us that we were essentially prepaying a cleaning fee.
Okay.
So that we still had a deposit in case we like horrendously damaged the place.
Yeah.
But like they told us like at the end of the unit, like don't worry about being charged a cleaning fee. Like you're paying it now. This is what this is. So yes, we still had to pay it, but they like acted as if it was something different.
All right. Well, I mean, I think that when you frame it that way, it's a lot easier to swallow than when it's just like, oh, thank you, money. But
I agree because I'll also point out like they always take a deposit that they want to use for a cleaning fee.
Yeah.
But they always say like, oh, but you can get it back. From my experience, you will absolutely never get it back. It does not matter how hard you clean that building, you will not get that. You will not get all of it back. They're definitely going to be like, we found dirt under the floorboards.
Exactly. But what I've heard and what I've read is that this reikin, this key money thing, is less common than it used to be, and it tends to be less common when, I don't know, I guess in some places that are more marketed towards non-Japanese, tends to be more common in more Japan marketed kind of buildings, apartments, I guess. I'm not sure exactly how that whole system works, but I guess it's just not as common as it used to be, but it's still around. And maybe like Ryan said, there's more places that are just kind of renaming it and trying to, say that it's actually for cleaning rather than just some very vague notion that it's just like, here, thank you for letting me live here.
Yeah, I don't think they want to like let that money go, but I think even Japanese people were like, why am I thanking you for the ability to pay you?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't know the exact history behind that, but that sounds like it would be an old custom when, landlords were more like, I'm letting you live in my house or something like that, rather than, a proper building that, the landlord has no direct contact with you on a daily basis. Okay,
yeah,
so
I've never actually met any of my real landlords in any of my units.
Yeah. Well, I only lived in one proper apartment aside from a dorm, so I didn't. I don't know who the hell the landlord was. Okay, so then you got your apartment set and all that. So then
Oh, I
what
will
happened
mention
next?
the other thing that's like famous on websites that like try to help foreigners as being difficult is you need
Yeah.
what they translate to guarantor,
Oh.
which
Hmm.
I usually just tell people is like a co-signer because I think they
Hmm.
understand that term more. We
Yeah.
did need that. Luckily, my wife's parents did it for us.
Gotcha. Okay, so basically, they're like in case something happens, we'll pay up for the last month of rent or something like that.
Even
I
though we
guess.
prepaid the last month of rent.
Yeah. Okay, so after that, then what did you go like hire a moving company or like what? How did that go?
Yes,
Hmm.
and that was very expensive.
Okay, that's what I've heard. Yeah, so tell us about it.
Everyone was like, "Oh, like, well, what your idea of expensive is like relative." But we were quoted like it'll probably be about 100,000 yen. And when we heard it, like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, that's not so bad for like all the junk we have.
Mm-hmm.
And then we found out if you do it in March, it's literally over double.
Whoa. Okay, I didn't know that much, but okay, yeah, peak season.
Yeah, so it was like I don't remember the final price was like 230,000 or something. All right,
Whew.
I think in Japanese now it was 23 mon,
Yeah, 23 months. So, I
two hundred
mean,
thirty
at
thousand.
100 yen to $1, which it's not that right now, but that would be like $2,300. But it's
Yeah,
yeah, that's quite a
and
bit.
again, that's only if you do like peak. I think it's only if you move in March.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
They did tell us we had more stuff than average, which I'm kind of suspicious of because we don't have. I mean, I have some stuff, but we don't have more than like a family.
Mm-hmm. True. Yeah.
But other than the price, we did get a little bit of luck because I quit my old job a bit early, so we were able to like move out on a Wednesday, which was like the cheapest day.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I think if we had like waited till the Friday, it would go up even higher.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But yeah, basically, they came to us about a week ahead of time and gave us 50 boxes of like
Mm-hmm.
varying size. We get like 20 big boxes and 30 normal boxes.
Mm-hmm.
So we packed everything that could go in a box. And then when they came, things that did not go in a box, they would like take and wrap up. And they made it pretty easy. Like we didn't have to pack any clothing. They had
Mm-hmm.
these like weird Velcro boxes that like just were like a miniature lightweight wardrobe to like take all
Oh.
that in.
Mm-hmm.
They also
Nice.
took like my bike, our TV, and all like the big heavy appliances, the washing machine,
Mm-hmm.
and they
Mm-hmm.
drove it from Ishikawa down to Kyoto about 3 hours, and then they took. We're on the second floor with no elevator too, so
Mm-hmm.
they took everything and put it like in the proper place, which is really nice because I don't know how I would take a washing machine like up the stairs by myself.
Yeah. Huh. Okay, well, pricey, but at least it was, well done, and they got it all, up the stairs. Which that's, oh, geez, like to have no elevator, that would be a, tricky.
It was kind of funny because it was the week before we went to Hawaii, where I saw you,
Yeah, exactly.
and my wife had been like asking about how tipping works because she'd never been to America. Well, she had been like only like a short time.
Mm-hmm.
And as like this was finishing, she was like, "This is exactly the type of people I feel like I want to tip, but it's
Yeah,
Japan, so we don't."
exactly. Yeah. Moving people. Yeah, it does seem like, yeah,
Yeah,
you
they
would
worked
want
really
to.
hard and did a really good
Yeah,
job, I think. Except there's like
yeah.
a giant scratch on my table, but my
Oh,
wife hates the table, wants to throw it away, so she didn't care.
so it's an excuse. Good timing. Uh, so okay, so well, it expensive, but it worked out. Again, peak season, it's going to be more expensive. I've seen one article that I saw was like, what's it called? Juman, no, Hyakuma, right? Like, yeah, like $1,000 or something like that. But yeah, again, it can be quite a bit more.
I think Jumon
Uh,
would be the 1,000.
yeah. So, but again, it
Yakuman would
can
be a
be.
very expensive company.
Yeah, exactly. That would be super expensive. They wrap your sofa in gold foil and then they move it. Um,
One tiny thing I will mention in case it becomes a question for anyone else.
yeah.
My wife was concerned that, so basically she did like an online interview with them where she just like phone cameraed and like showed all of our stuff to get a quote from them.
Okay.
And she specifically said we have the washing machine, the refrigerator, like my bike. And they said like that is okay, and anything you can put in these boxes. So she was worried that like if we had something that didn't fit in the boxes but wasn't like pre-approved, they would refuse it.
Yeah.
They did not do that. We had paid for a 3-ton truck. And I think anything in any form that could be loaded into that truck and not go over the 3 tons was okay.
Okay. Well, that's good. That's good to know. What about like any big trash? Like Japan is known like you have to pay to get rid of like big trash, and they come and pick it up and all that, and it's very hard to get rid of like a sofa or something like that. Did you have to deal with anything like that?
Yes. That was one thing that we kind of miss about Komatsu. It was really easy. There is an area called Ecology Park that's basically their dump, but you just like take stuff there, and it doesn't matter what it is. They'll like send you to a different area depending on like what it's made of. But they charge you a really, really tiny fee, and they'll take it from you. Like we took a broken desk chair, some like kitchen appliances we didn't want, and then like at the end it would cost like 300 yen or something.
Wow, that's much cheaper than in the city, I think.
I had a broken computer, which we were worried about because I think the disposal fees are higher. But I went into a Hard Off, which is basically like Book Off, but unaffiliated, that sells like home goods and electronics. And they also have a junk section, which is like non-functional stuff for people who just want to like open it up and like take out pieces or whatever. So they bought it from me for like 500 yen or something.
Oh, wow. Well, hey, I mean, if you were going to throw it away anyway, right? That's not bad.
And they said they would like destroy the hard drive and stuff, so I wouldn't have to worry about like any data going on to whoever gets it next.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, good to know. I didn't know that, but that makes sense with Hard Off. So, yeah, like when I left Japan, thankfully I was able to sell most of my stuff to the next jet participant that was going to be in my apartment. But there were a few things that were a little bit big that I needed to get rid of, and one was like an old computer, and you were supposed to like pay for it, and I just kind of like I found a way to get rid of it. I'll just say that. But
it's still laying on the street now.
No, I didn't do that. It was in the proper place, but it was in a trash area. Let's put it that way. But like I didn't do anything highly illegal. Let's put it that way. But it can be really annoying to get rid of certain big things. Thankfully, I didn't have to like get rid of a sofa or anything like that. So it was relatively easy for me. But especially when you're like in Kyoto or like the more concentrated cities that you can have to call like whatever place to pick it up, and it can be expensive. At least that's what I've heard.
Yeah, we were lucky nothing was big enough we couldn't fit it in our car. I have heard if that happens, you have to like call some service and like they'll send a truck over, and I think it comes a little bit more. Yeah. I don't think it's ever too much. I've never heard of it being like 10,000 yen or anything, but I don't know what you might be trying to dispose of.
Yeah, it depends. But so did I assume you had to do that whole like announcement of relocation at your local government office, and that you moved to the new place and then you register and all that?
Multiple times, because my foreigner's card also expired during all this.
Oh, okay. Huh. So you had to do it in Ishikawa, and then you had to do it again in Kyoto.
Yeah, you go there and tell them you're leaving. You go to the new place and tell them you're coming. And if your card doesn't have a problem, I think you're just done then. But my card was being processed during the move. So I switched from a high school teaching job to a university teaching job. So in immigration, I had to change my foreigner category from education to professor.
Oh, that's so specific.
Which made it even more awkward, because I was even though my last day going to work was like March 3rd or something, I had like vacation days saved up, so my last day like getting paid was the 24th. And if I changed the card before then, I would technically be like illegally employed. So I filed the paperwork like in February, but they're like, oh, but you can't actually collect this card until like March 25th.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, okay, but I'm going to be in Kyoto. Can you like send it to the immigration office in Kyoto? No. Yeah. He said technically yes, but it's very, very difficult and requires a lot of paperwork, and it's not worth the hassle.
so Japanese, right? It's
Yeah, I
like,
know.
yes, it's possible, but yeah.
Trust me, you don't want to do it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we did the move. I went to Hawaii for our wedding. Maybe we can talk about that some other time.
Yeah.
We came back, and then, so as I mentioned, the ecology park in Komatsu was like really, really easy and just no problem to use. My wife decided all the boxes that we now had like built up at our new apartment she wanted to throw away there. So we drove to Ishikawa again to pick up my card and go to the dump again to get rid of our boxes.
Okay. Well, you were going anyway, so it makes sense.
Oh, and before this, I did register in Kyoto as like living there with my old card. We went to Komatsu, got my new card, came back to Kyoto, and registered again.
Wow. It's so annoying. But yeah, I mean, so the foreign card obviously is a thing unique to the foreigners, but the registering the location, that is something that all Japanese do have to do.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. My wife had to do that too.
Yeah, that's so annoying.
She also had to go multiple times. I forgot what her issue is, but she keeps like you have, if you're Japanese only, like foreigners don't have to worry about this, but you have like I don't know, where your home is considered like permanent home, not where you actually live.
Yeah, you're kind of your family home for most people.
Yeah,
I guess.
so she's still registered where she was born, and she kept needing papers from their office in that prefecture.
Oh, that's so
annoying. And weirdly,
annoying.
the papers have an expiration date.
Oh my gosh, you can't eat them after a certain date.
Yeah, so like she had to like send an application, and of course it takes them like a week to send it. And then because we did a lot of traveling to Hawaii and stuff in the meantime, we got back. She still needed it, but now it was expired, so she has to like get it sent again.
Wow, that's ridiculous. But yeah, Japan, I guess they like keeping an eye on where you are, huh? So yeah,
I have another fun paperwork story if you want to hear that real quick.
Yeah. I'll just add one thing. I was reading that if you have a certain deadline to register your new location at the new place, I think it was like 14 days after you move. And if you don't, there's like a fine, maybe like 50,000 yen, like $500 more or less.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's what I read in an article from 2020. So, I don't know, changes happen, but it is something you definitely want to do because, I don't know, it could be a hassle if you don't. So tell us about the story then.
So we bought our ticket. So we went to visit California to meet my family, to introduce my wife to my family back in, the ticket buying was back in like July or June. The actual trip was in December. Because we for whatever reason, I logged online and it had been like super expensive because the country was still shut down. But like that one weekend, it was like really, really cheap, like the cheapest I'd seen in 10 years. So we bought our tickets, and then we were engaged at the time. And in Japan, you do paperwork to get married months before the actual ceremony. So we got married, and they're like, "Oh, like you can change your name to be the same name right now if you'd like." And we're like, well, wait a minute. We bought like tickets under her old name, and it has to match her passport. So we went online to check, like, would this be an issue? In American, like on the same airline in their American website, like, no issue at all if your name changes. Just like let us know ahead of time. The Japanese website, if your name changes, you will need to buy a new ticket. There's nothing we can do.
Yeah. Japan's super strict about that. Yeah.
So we ended up not changing her name at the time. And it's like, don't worry, if you do it within 6 months, like you can still just like come in and like tell us, and it's really easy.
Yeah.
Long story short, with all the traveling, all the stuff we ended up doing, we ended up not being able to do it within the 6 months. So now she has to actually go to like a courthouse and be approved by a judge or something to have her name changed. Which, again, I need to point out, like, it's actually the law that her name has to match her. We have to have the same family name. Well, okay, there's a law that people in Japan can't have different family names unless you're a foreigner, unless your spouse is a foreigner, because foreigners aren't people.
Yeah, exactly. That's the loophole.
But she wants to take my name, so now she has to go do a whole bunch of courtroom stuff.
And for everybody that doesn't know, Ryan's last name is Ryan. It's not Ryan, but that's just a joke. But it would be Ryan. Yeah, it's like Mario, right? Yeah. But yeah, that's so Japan. Yeah, it's like now you got to go to that courthouse. Oh my god, it's just But
to be fair, if we didn't have this whole like already bought our ticket thing, I think she just like checks a box and it would be automatic.
Right. Yeah. But oh man, now she's gonna have to get a new hanko. So
No. Her, like, when she was a teenager, her mom bought her first one, and she did it on her first name, just because she thought this would happen someday.
oh, smart. Okay, looking ahead. Yeah. All right. So everybody, let's do a first name hanko. So. So yeah, that is pretty much it. I mean, of course, every situation is different, and moving from, for example, the city to a more rural area, you might have a very different experience. But there's a lot of common things there. Like we discussed with the key money and moving companies and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, that's pretty standard.
Yeah, like we can't get into super specific details, but there's tons of articles and all that about moving in Japan. There's tons of like links and stuff in different articles that I saw. So if you are moving, especially within Japan, but even to Japan, there's plenty of resources out there. This was just kind of like Ryan's situation and a couple general details. Any last things that you want to bring up?
It's not terrible. Like, all things considered, I think it went fairly smoothly, but moving itself just sucks.
Yes, it does.
Because our current lease is for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And we picked this place. It's a nice place, but my wife, like I said, currently has no job, so we kind of went to this one. And originally we were saying, like, okay, like, in the 2 years, she will find a job, and then, like, maybe we can get an even nicer apartment with, like, an extra bedroom for guests later. And then, like, after all this process was done, she's like, moving sucks. Let's just stay here for like 10 years.
Yeah, I know how it is. Yeah. And part of the, when you move it to Japan on JET or, one of these English teaching positions, it really is quite easy because they do most of the annoying stuff for you. And in many situations, even like they'll have somebody take you to for example, the city office so that you can fill out the paperwork, to notify them that you've moved in. And they really, especially JET, right? Like they really handhold you. So, but when you do have to do this, on your own, or, in your case, of course, you had your wife that really did a lot of it, but it's different from, having a company just kind of do everything for you. So yeah, it's very annoying, but it is what it is. And at least you found the good place that you're happy with. And Kyoto is a wonderful place to be in. So I'm sure I'll probably be visiting you sometime.
Yeah, if you do JET, pretty much you just show up and a unit is like ready for you. And it's usually even like partially furnished.
Yeah. It really is super easy. And yeah, you, in a lot of situations, like I said, in my situation, for example, I sold a lot of my stuff to the next person. And that happens. That's very common. So at the very least, like you have some of the basic stuff, like you'll have like a chair and like a table and maybe like a fan or maybe even a TV or something, they have like the basic stuff to get you started. And then, if you don't like something, you can always, buy something later and switch it out. But, you're not in many situations, you're not in a totally empty apartment, right?
Yeah.
So, so we'll leave it at that. And, I don't know, if you have some crazy adventures in Kyoto now, then, you can tell us about it some other time.
So many already.
I know. I'm sure.
Did you know Kyoto has a Sarlacc?
Oh, really? Oh, are you near the pit?
This one's not in a pit. It actually free roams.
Oh, okay. Well, is it very tame then?
No, not at all. It's actually a horrible public nuisance.
Oh, well, okay. So people, be careful. There's a Sarlacc roaming the Kyoto streets. Okay, Star Wars fans got that. No, people that don't like Star Wars have no idea what we're talking about. All right. Well, thank you, Ryan, for sharing your experiences. And we'll be back next time.
See ya.